What's up, FA Nation? Happy Tuesday. It is once again the day after Monday Night Football, which means you get a healthy dose of myself, Jen Piacenti, and our managing editor over at Fantasy Alarm, John Impemba. John, how's your Tuesday going today?
My Tuesday is going okay. Probably not as good as your Tuesday is going, though, since it is your birthday. So happy birthday, Jen.
Thank you, John. It is my birthday. It is birthday in time of COVID-19, which is just basically like I'm doing a live stream.
Yeah.
That's my birthday gift to me. I get to hang out with you.
What's your birthday cake of choice?
I like all kinds of birthday cake. I don't think I'm actually going to have any birthday cake today because I'd have to bake it for myself. I'm not sure I'm going to do it. But I love red velvet with cream cheese frosting. I love vanilla with vanilla. I love chocolate. And you know what? I am an equal opportunity cake consumer. I will eat any kind of cake. I love cake. And by the way, thanks to all of FA Nation who've sent me really nice birthday greetings, including RKO Man, who got me a cameo. From
How about that?
Jeff Blum saying Apo Taco, and also a birthday card that involved bananas. Because, yeah, I don't like bananas.
At least it wasn't a Baker Mayfield like t-shirt or something.
At least it wasn't a Baker Mayfield like t-shirt, but I did appreciate your tweet, John, probably not realizing even that it was an early birthday gift for me, pointing out that Pro Football Focus
says he's also trash. Yeah, he's also a very bad quarterback. Yeah, we already knew that, Jen. We've been telling this people for years. And now the nerds are deep diving the stats and be like, yeah, not a good quarterback.
He's not a good quarterback. And the other thing we did mention last week, and I hope you guys listened, was it was too early to drop Evan Ingram. He had a decent game. Still would have liked to have seen more targets, but it was not the week to drop Evan Ingram. I think basically tight end is just kind of a wasteland.
Yeah, right. Aside from the top few guys this year, it's been trash. I mean, Kelsey's been very consistent. Waller, aside from the 1 week, has been what you expected out of him. Yes. Even Andrews has given you top three tight end weeks of the 5. After that, though, I mean, Kittle had the 1 big week, but he's been hurt. It's been a shit show. So
Zach Ertz has been a disaster.
Tyler Higbee. Higbee's had 4 of the 5 weeks. Higbee's been ranked outside the top 22 tight ends this year. So not great tight end experience this year for those who drafted early. Basically, you're better off waiting or taking a guy off waivers, essentially.
Yeah, but we did see 2 tight ends reach the end zone last night, one of which we probably predicted because we know that New Orleans has been very poor versus the tight end all season, and that was Hunter Henry. So hopefully you started Hunter Henry. Let's talk a little bit about last night's game.
Yeah.
Is Justin Herbert a star or what?
I mean, he's looking really good. I mean, it's hilarious to think that for the last couple of weeks, Anthony Lynn was having that charade of like Tyrod Taylor is going to be our quarterback when Herbert's done absolutely nothing to make you think that he can't run this offense. Now things are starting to kind of fall apart on him a little bit. Now he lost Austin Eckler last week. This week, Keenan Allen goes down with an injury, but boom, right away connects with Mike Williams, connecting with Hunter Henry. So, he's showing poise. He's making downfield throws. We always knew he had the arm, but he's also showing some of the awareness that I think you don't expect out of a young quarterback. They haven't won any of the games yet, but I mean, I don't necessarily know if it's the offense's fault. The defense is the one that's giving up all these leads. So, I mean, Herbert looks really, really good. Maybe a team eventually kind of gets a book on him, but so far he's passing all the colors.
Yeah, Joe Burrow hasn't won a game yet either. So,
right.
There you go. I actually had to debate whether to start him or Big Ben in a couple of leagues, Scott Fishbowl being one. I went with Big Ben. Now, in retrospect, I was really on the fence, and I even asked Adam Rodas about it. He said, I'd start Ben, but I don't blame you if you start Herbert. And in the end, I went with the safe play. Still a very good
Ben still had a good week. I mean, Chase Claypool, Bill, and everybody out there. So
speaking of Chase Claypool, and we will shortly, we'll get to Chase Claypool. So what about Justin Jackson versus Joshua Kelly? Let's talk a little bit about that backfield division. Justin Jackson did get more touches last night than Joshua Kelly. I think some of us expected that. I know I went and started Justin Jackson in, I think, 3 leagues, including the one with my dad, because I thought he would outperform his projections. I didn't think he would be a star, but I thought he would do enough in those leagues where you lost Nick Chubb or you lost Austin Eckler this week to make it worth it. He was pretty good. And I've always felt like he just needed more of a chance and not to be injured. But what do you think is going to happen going forward? Do you think it's going to be an even division and switch back and forth based on play style? Or what do you think is the plan?
Yeah, Jackson started the game last night, which I thought maybe was a little bit surprising. I thought maybe Kelly,
Mhm.
given the way his early season performances, would have sort of lended to him having that role. But it's seeming like, all along with the idea was Kelly was going to be more of the red zone back. Eckler was going to be, some of the early down pass catching roles. And Jackson has seemingly assumed that role there. And if you look at the snap count share, Justin Jackson had about 60% of the snaps. Kelly had about 35% of the snaps on offense last night. Jackson outperformed Kelly. He was involved in the passing game, which I think is going to be huge for his overall fantasy value. The one thing I want to sort of like hold back a little bit here is we've seen Jackson have these opportunities before, and he's been very inconsistent with the matchups. Now this is a tough run defense, with that the Saints have, and he was able to be able to get some big gains out of them. So it's looking more positive for him moving forward. It's still something I want to sit back and watch, not jump out right away and think Jackson's going to be the guy. But again, his involvement in the passing game is what really sticks out to me.
Now, should we all go put claims in on Mike Williams? Because I just dropped him in a few leagues this week because I was afraid he would never get healthy, even though I love him and I didn't have a big bench and I had to make all these moves because of all these bye weeks and injuries. And he got the short end of the stick. And then I'm watching last night feeling like, ugh. But he looked like he could be injured after that last play.
The end of the game, he was grabbing at like a knee or a hamstring or something. I don't know if you've seen anything. I'm going to do a quick look right here. If anything had popped up about that, I haven't seen any sort of injury comments about him after that, though. So I'm guessing he's okay. But it definitely looked like maybe his knee got jammed there or hyperextended at the end of that game. That said, I was in a situation where I have him in a couple leagues, but he was questionable going into that game on Monday night, and I wasn't going to risk having a zero, so he was on my bench in all of the leagues that I have him in. So frustrating, but also love the fact that he was able to have that connection with Herbert, and especially if Allen ends up missing some time with that back problem that he's dealing with. It seems that Williams is going to be able to step into that role and be a big part of it, at the very least, as an end zone threat. So I'm liking what we got out of Williams. When he's healthy, he's always been a very strong wide receiver. Just injuries have plagued him throughout his career.
Yeah, he is super talented. He just needs the opportunity, and we saw him get the opportunity once Keenan Allen left the game, and we were rewarded. So we'll just have to keep an eye on it going forward. And now let's jump to the other side of the game. Should we be freaking out about Drew Brees? I guess we've been asking this question every week, but it seems like the fever pitch is growing. Are we freaking out about Drew Brees as our fantasy quarterback?
I don't know if I'm freaking out about him yet. I mean, it's a little bit concerning that in the red zone they took him out of the game there for Taysom Hill, because you definitely don't want that. You want Drew Brees on the field to help you with your fantasy production. So if he's going to be removed for Taysom Hill and red zone opportunities, it's not what you're looking there for as a quarterback. But I mean, he still put up 21 fantasy points last night.
Yeah.
He's been an average quarterback. I think if you find the right matchups, you can still have an impact there. Plus, he hasn't had his top receiver all season. So when Michael Thomas comes back, maybe we start seeing his production jump back up. Things maybe will open up for other receivers. I mean, he's been connecting with Emmanuel Sanders now in back-to-back weeks. Alvin Kamara is still being very involved in the passing game. It was great to see Jared Cook score last night. Once MT gets back on the field, defenses have to change the way they're covering, and maybe that opens things up for Brees a little bit more, having that reliable guy to go to. So I'm not ready to dump on Brees. Overall this year, the numbers are still great. Over 70% completion percentage, touchdown and interceptions aren't terrible. So, well, I think on the field it doesn't look great. Fantasy-wise, he's still getting it done for us.
Speaking of receivers, yes, Emmanuel Sanders did have a good game. Looks like 2 games in a row now that maybe he is developing the chemistry with Drew Brees. But what about that receiver named Alvin Kamara, who actually had more receiving yards last night than rushing yards? Is this something that you think might eat into actually Michael Thomas's value once he's back? And do you have any concern about the fact that Michael Thomas is punching people on his own team?
Well, you don't want to see him punching people, that's for sure. I think Kamara's target rate right now is because Thomas isn't on the field, and you're looking at Drew Brees just quickly checking down to Kamara when given the opportunity to. But also, I mean, hey, we saw him catch that ball down the sideline last night where he's looking like Randy Moss or even Michael Thomas out there over the cornerback along the sideline, come down the catch. So this is part of his game. I mean, it's not shocking to me to see Alvin Kamara being heavily involved in the team's passing offense. If he's healthy enough to get it going on the ground still, I think that'll only open up more as Michael Thomas gets on the field, because defenses have to worry about Michael Thomas. Right now, they're keying in on wherever Alvin Kamara is on the field. One less body to commit to Kamara, going over to Thomas could open things up for him as well. So, again, I'm not really upset with the way he's running the football, still averaging 4.6 yards per carry. But if you're in a PPR league, you have to love that passing receiving production, because it's really carrying his overall fantasy points.
Absolutely is. Now let's talk a little bit about waiver wire. You talked earlier about having 2 touchdowns on your bench in Mike Williams. I left 4 touchdowns on my bench with Chase Claypool in what could be the breakout game. Now, I don't know if you remember, but a couple weeks ago, everybody, we talked about the fact that Pittsburgh was getting an early bye and suggested that maybe it was the time to go put in a claim for Chase Claypool, because nobody would be paying attention. Everyone was panicking and not thinking about picking up Pittsburgh. They were thinking about dropping Pittsburgh at that point. And I thought this is a great time to go buy low. And so that's exactly what I did, including in the Alarm After Hours League. And I know my dad texted me and said, I can't believe we left Chase Claypool on the bench. And I said, well, what you should be grateful is that he was on our bench and you weren't playing versus him on the other team. So we're good.
Well, the fact that you'll have to spend half your budget on him this week to get
him. Exactly. Because there's going to be a lot higher price now. And I don't know that I don't think he'll ever repeat that kind of a game. I mean, that was just monster. Now people are going to be wise to it. But what is his, possibility going forward? Because I'm looking at this matchup right here. They're versus Cleveland next week. And Cleveland, let me just consult my notes here. Cleveland, the 3rd most points surrendered to the wide receiver position, the 4th most to quarterbacks. So Big Ben plus who? Plus Juju, plus Deontay, plus Claypool. Where do we go here? Are we worried about Deontay's injuries? And are we afraid that Juju's stock has just gone down?
I mean, I think for me, it's the injuries to Deontay Johnson is what opened up the opportunity for Claypool. Big Ben loves Deontay Johnson, talks about it all the time. And if you look at the 2 games that he's been on the field, he was getting double-digit targets. And the fact that he's been off the field has allowed other guys to sort of flourish. And I think Claypool was the beneficiary of that last week. That said, they used Claypool. They used a 2nd-round pick on Claypool this year in the draft. They talked very highly of him during camp. He's an absolute freak. I mean, we talk about DK Metcalf and how much of a specimen he is. Claypool's 6'4", 240 and ran a 4.42. I mean, the guy is an absolute horse running down the field. And I mean, if they start using him in that offense that way, if they really start giving him more snaps, more production, I mean, we know Big Ben can throw the ball downfield. I think there's some upside still to be had. But like you said, there's a lot of other mouths to feed in that offense still. And I think you need somebody to either be put back or somebody to get hurt for him to really take that step forward. So while I agree, I don't think we're going to see this type of production out of him again. We could start seeing him maybe see 4, 5, 6 targets a game moving forward. Not that I think it was 11 or 12 that he saw this week. And if some of them, those are downfield shots, then, there's some boom or bust play there.
He certainly has some downfield ability, to say the least. Yeah. And, I think that now we can officially say James Washington is 4th on the totem pole there.
Yeah,
so James Washington truthers.
He's still got some targets, but again, like you said, it's tough for him to now find the field if other guys are going to be healthy in front of him. It's really all to me pegs on the Deontay Johnson ability to stay on the field. They said the back injury wasn't too serious, but again, he didn't play the entire second half. So who knows?
Right. Who knows? It's impossible to know. Someone that may or may not have been on your bench, but probably not, Travis Fulgham. I mean, what's up here? I mean, there are no receivers in Philadelphia. We've been like, who is it going to be? We thought maybe it was going to be Greg Ward, and that was Is it Travis Fulgham now, or is it just going to go back to, Deshaun when he's back, or Alshon? What do you think's going on? Because again, it may seem ridiculous, but if you look at the numbers, Baltimore, who they're facing this week, actually hasn't been good versus wide receivers. And you look at the actual numbers, I did some digging. They've given up the 9th most passing yards. They've given up the 7th most passing yards per game. It's a bit of a sneaky play to play a receiver from Philadelphia this week, but which one?
Yeah, that's really the question. I think it's going to depend on the health of guys like Deshaun Jackson and Alshon Jeffrey, in my opinion. I think Fulgham is really only getting this opportunity because those other 2 guys are out. And I think when they do come back, D. Jackson and Jeffrey will be the starters. I kind of talked about this with Fancy last night on Alarm After Hours. I wouldn't really go overboard with my fab buying on him because there's an opportunity where if those guys come back this week, what's his snap count going to be like? What's his target share going to be like? Now, I don't think Jackson and Jeffrey would immediately get a full share of snaps, but someone's going to have to come off the field for them to be on the field. And Fulgham seems like a guy that could end up taking the hit there. Him and Greg Ward both are really only in the spots they are due to the injuries. So I'm kind of hesitant on expecting much more from him once those guys come back. He's probably more of a short-term ad, but you're also looking at Jackson and Jeffrey, who are also very injury-prone. So
right.
To me, it's a risk to use a lot of fab budget on a guy without a clear path to a role. You need things to happen for him. I think for him to have that starting job, and banking on things like that are always tough for me to gauge.
So big upset game, Las Vegas Raiders taking down the Kansas City Chiefs. Kind of fun, actually. I mean, I'm kind of tired of the Kansas City Chiefs winning.
The Chiefs almost lost 2 division games. The Chargers beat them if it wasn't for some poor coach calling in that game against the Chargers. So no kidding, right?
Yeah, really. But now we know we don't have Sammy Watkins, at least for a few weeks. No big surprise here. Does this bump up Mecole Hardman for you if he's still available? I think he's probably worth a bid, right?
Yeah, no, I would for sure take a look at Hardman. Again, now he's more of the handcuff, in my opinion, for, say, like Tyreek Hill. They're sort of the same
deeper threat
play. They'll run similar routes. But, I mean, he's the one that got the snaps count bump, with Watkins out the field. I'm looking right now in ESPN leagues, Hardman's available in like 65% of leagues. So odds are Hardman is out there. If you're looking for like a deep ad, Demarcus Robinson could maybe be the guy. He played 68% of the snaps in week 5 against the Rams. Didn't do much with it, only 2 catches on 4 targets for 2 yards. But the fact that he saw 68% of the snaps makes me think that he maybe fits better in the Sammy Watkins role than Hardman does. And we saw him last year at times have some decent games when they had injuries. So Demarcus Robinson could be an ad if you missed out on Hardman to just get more exposure to that Chiefs offense. And according to Pro Football Focus, Demarcus Robinson's nickname is the real deal. Didn't know that about him. So I'm a sucker for a good nickname,
Talk about facts. Now I got to ask this. I got to jump over to the other side of that game. Is it time to take Nelson Agholor for real? Because I think we've all been wanting it to be Hunter Renfrow. We've all made it Hunter Renfrow. It's not Hunter Renfrow. I just don't think it is anymore. It might actually be Nelson Agholor. I mean, do we buy this? Because he's available probably most places.
Yeah, what's so odd to me was he was on the field for almost 80% of the snaps. So clearly he was on the field a lot, but he only saw 2 targets. He found the end zone with one of his 2 targets and a big gain. But Ruggs sort of had the same type of game there where he had 2 catches, 3 targets, over 100 yards in a score. So there wasn't a lot of targets going in their direction, but the fact that they were able to find the end zone in this high-scoring game helped their production. I would definitely take a flyer on Agholor. It's hard to ignore the snap count there. Maybe if Bryan Edwards comes back, we see if he gets a reduction there. But, yeah, for now, he's available in leagues. You can certainly go ahead and throw a waiver bid on him.
Yeah. By the way, guys, if you want some more waiver wire options, go to fantasyalarm.com. Dan Malin puts out a waiver wire article every I guess it's Monday morning, and then he updates it even on Tuesday based on Monday Night Football, and probably will even update it tomorrow. Maybe we're going to see a Khalif Raymond appearance. I don't know. We'll find out. I actually think Raymond, by the way, might have a good game tonight based on the slot defending in Buffalo.
He was in your deep cuts ad video. He
was in my DFS video, which I thought was going to get canceled. But yeah. But by the way, Deep Cuts had another touchdown.
He did.
We had one per week. It was Darren Fells this week. I don't know if I can keep that going, but it's kind of fun.
I mean, we'll keep a lot of tickets. Nothing wrong with that at all.
We'll keep it up. All right, so let's talk about Dak Prescott. So obviously not good, very sad for all Cowboys owners. And I think actually for NFL in general, I don't think anyone would argue that Dak is good for the league, and what he's experienced and gone through is just, too much. But I think he's going to be a leader from the sidelines. What do you do if you're the Dak Prescott owner? Do you just go to Andy Dalton, or do you find somewhere else? Because I have to say, and maybe it's because I'm a TC Horned Frog, I kind of don't have a problem with maybe just using Andy Dalton. It excites me a little bit about Zeke's possibilities as well. Yeah. I think we'll use more Zeke. And it kind of excites me a little bit about maybe Michael Gallup, who had seemed to kind of, taken a lesser role in the wide receivers. We were trying to figure it out. If Andy and Michael like each other, that could be some big plays. And it makes sense to me. It could go Zeke and then deep play to Gallup. And I'm wondering if this is going to change a little bit of how you feel. And would you be comfortable using Andy Dalton?
Yeah, I mean, if you're in like a 14-team league, Dalton's probably a guy you're going to have to go to. If you're in a shallower league, I feel like there's going to be available quarterbacks that I would trust a little bit more. Now, the offense around him, like you said, is still fantastic.
So many weapons.
Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Ezekiel Elliott, Dalton Schultz, even. Like, there's a lot of great pieces in that offense, and the defense is still trash. So, like, they're going to have to throw the football. So, yeah, maybe there's some upside with Dalton there, but he didn't look very good at all the final couple of years with Cincinnati. And I know the Bengals were not a good football team, but 60% completion percentage over there. Touchdown to interception ratios weren't great. So what exactly does he have left in the tank at this point? I think if you have to add him, sure, go ahead. Otherwise, I would take a look and see if Justin Herbert's available in your league, or Joe Burrow, even now that he's kind of past some of the tougher matchups I think that he has on his schedule. Matthew Stafford, I know, is available in some leagues. So, I would take a look at maybe some of those guys over Andy Dalton. But again, if you're in a crunch, I don't think Dalton's the worst you could pick up.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he's the worst you can pick up. I think he could surprise us. He's back home in Dallas. He's got more weapons. It's a different team environment. He's only playing for 1 year. He has a lot to play for. So at first I thought, no, I don't want to. And then I thought some more about it. And I thought, those weapons are just so good. I think he's an option. So
yeah, no, he's definitely an option. He was definitely an option. I give him, Ryan Howell and I were going back a little bit after the injury, figuring out how we're going to project the Cowboys offense and projecting Andy Dalton. And I actually said, I'm like, whatever Baker Mayfield has for the rest of the season, just give to Andy Dalton. I kind of likened them to a similar type of production, 60% completion, probably somewhere in the 1.5 to 1, almost 2 to 1 interception to touchdown, or touchdown to interception ratio. I'm not thinking too highly of him, but then he came out and started throwing the ball downfield to Gallup. Like you said, I'm like, all right, the weapons are better. The offensive line is okay. Maybe Dalton will have more time there and can rejuvenate himself a little bit. So I don't hate it. I think if you're in a bind, you can definitely add him, but I would see what else is out there for sure.
So I would say it was pretty fun to see Houston let loose after getting rid of Bill O'Brien. We finally saw, great game from Brandon Cooks. I don't know if we can expect that regularly, but we saw Deshaun Watson have a much better game. How do you feel about David Johnson moving forward?
I mean, I was happy to see how he ran against Jacksonville. I mean, he almost had 100 yards. The touches were there. I still wish he was involved a little bit more in the passing game. I know Duke Johnson being there is going to obviously have some of the passing downs, but I mean, one of his best assets is his ability to catch the football, and the fact that he only had 2 catches rather in this game kind of concerns me. He does have a really good matchup coming up though against Tennessee. Teams are running all over the Titans here, so if this game ends up playing, another favorable spot here now for Johnson to have a strong game. So
for Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and for Derrick Henry for sure. So I'm excited about what happens. Obviously, I have a lot of David Johnson exposure. And the offense obviously didn't get off to the start I was hoping for, but the schedule for him gets a lot easier moving forward. So I liked what we saw there. The Brandon Cooks thing is funny to me because after the goose egg he laid last week, I felt like, and I kept telling myself while making lineups, it's always one of those things where it's like when a guy doesn't get any targets the week before, he gets all the targets the next week. And I still couldn't pull the trigger, and I went with Watson and Fuller stack, and then Cooks went off, and I'm like, yep, I was trying to talk myself into the play, and I just couldn't pull the trigger, and of course he has a huge game. So I think the new offense is gonna sort of work Cooks more into it. I mean, he's a 4-time 1,000-yard receiver or something like that, so it's not like he's a scrub.
Yeah, he's not a scrub at all, but I still think Will Fuller is the guy, play, if you want the floor play, if you will. Can't believe we're talking about Will Fuller as a floor play, but that's what it's come to because 2020, folks. Now, we saw what happened with Houston when they got rid of their head coach. What's going to happen with Atlanta? Everyone is freaking out about Matt Ryan. I personally think you hang on to Matt Ryan a little longer. They just lost their head coach. They have a good matchup this week, right? I looked it up. It looks like the receivers should.
Yeah, they're facing Minnesota. So,
Minnesota, come on, Calvin Ridley, and I assume Russell Gage, and hopefully Hayden Hurst, who we need more from.
Hopefully Julio Jones. I mean,
hopefully Julio Jones. We'll see. I think he hasn't quite looked right all year. It would be great if he could get back.
Yeah, but after week 1, he obviously had the huge week 1, 9 for 157, but then he got hurt against Dallas, and he's never been healthy since. Like, he missed a game, tried to play through an injury, got hurt again, missed last week. I'm hoping they can give him more time to heal that hamstring up, because I think that's what's hurting Matt Ryan is he only has one receiver to throw the football to. It's Hurst hasn't shown up. Russell Gage isn't a wide receiver 2. He's better as a wide receiver 3. And Zacchaeus isn't a wide receiver 3. He's more of a wide receiver 4. If you get the guys slotted where they're supposed to, and the coverage is the defensive focus can be where they're supposed to be on Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, they can work some different things up. And I think that'll help Ryan a little bit more. Very happy to be a Todd Gurley owner. He was someone that I liked a lot heading into this year. I thought he could at the very least repeat what he did last season with the Rams, where he was a top 12 PPR back. And now he has a 100-yard game, getting in the red zone. So, Gurley's looking healthy, and hopefully they keep on running him.
And it's another good matchup this week for Gurley, so there's no reason not to use him that way. Do we think Atlanta finally gets their first win of the season on Sunday, or is Minnesota starting to cook? I mean, they may be without Dalvin Cook.
Yeah, they could be without Dalvin Cook. I mean, Alexander Madison looked very good, obviously, 112 yards in relief there.
So glad I have both.
Yes, I made a trade last week. So I'm in a league that I'm 4-0 in. I had Dalvin Cook. I was like, all right, I'm definitely going to be in a good spot to make the playoffs here. I want to make sure I get the protection in case Cook goes down late in the year and I go into the playoffs. So I traded Julio Jones for OBJ and Madison before last week. So Julio was expected to play. OBJ hadn't had his big game yet. So I got the coverage, got everything. And then obviously Cook gets hurt. Julio gets hurt. I have OBJ, and now I have Madison. So cleared myself pretty well, handled myself pretty well in that deal. But I think this should be a good week for them coming up. So we'll have to wait and see how it falls through. Atlanta, coach teams. I think Howard Bender gave me the stat last season, or it was 63% of teams over the last 2 years have won the week after firing their coach, or something like that, or covered the spread the week after firing their coach. So, and that doesn't count Houston doing it this week. So, teams kind of react to the coaching change, it seems.
Yeah, I think it brings them together, and they fight for each other a little bit. So, all right, well, our time has flown as usual. It's already time to wind up. So any parting thoughts? Anybody else that I missed that we should go target on the waiver wire?
No, I mean, like I said, I think that what we have covered with the waiver wire article by Dan Malin, you can check that out on site right now. It gives you everything you need to know, guys to add, fab bids to throw in, help you look forward to week 6, and cross our fingers that the schedule stays intact this week, right? So we don't have to deal with, replacement players, bench players, guys on random unexpected buys. Let's get a real week of football in here, huh?
Let's get a week of football in here. If you guys do have any questions, though, we will be in chat 24/7, and there will be a Sunday morning live stream at 11 a.m. Eastern time where we will take those start-sit questions as well. Obviously, no Thursday night game this week. But hey, we got Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night football. So
we'll take it. You guys enjoy the game tonight, and we'll catch you next time.